The man in the cell retains his silence. 4 days of isolation and near complete darkness have done nothing to break the wizard's mind. The guard outside his cell taps idly on the worked stone walls. 6 solid inches of stone and mortar to keep the witch from blasting his way out. His spellbook was confiscated and burned, his tools buried in the dungeon's vault. The Overlord will wait until the wizard's mind is broken and he speaks, because he's the only being left alive who knows the location of the lost Keys of the Dawn, a powerful collection of magical artifacts that can open doors to impossible places. Once he has them, he can open the door to the endless oblivion and release the flayed lizard back onto reality, subjugating all life to his will. He's raised a following of those who would fall prey to the teachings of the Scaled God, a false pretense to masquerade his intentions. The guard leans on the wall lazily, a quill and paper nearby to jot down anything that the prisoner says that could lead to the keys. His mind slows and he begins to doze off. To keep himself awake, he taps again on the solid stone door and hums the dour tune of a hymn to the Scaled God himself. A devout follower like him will be richly rewarded when the day of ascension comes. A whisper enters his mind. "You serve well, two-legged one," the voice intones. The guard starts up, grasping the spear he'd leaned against the wall and turning this way and that, trying to find the source of the voice. "Who's there?" he says. Seconds later, the whisper comes again. "I am the one whose feet walked the world before you rose from 4 to 2. He shoots his glances hither and to, but amidst the shadows of the subterranean hallway, no movement catches his eye. "What's going on here?" he says, his voice echoing hauntingly down the corridor. "I watch, I observe, I reward. Your devotion is not unnoticed." Then, silence. The guard nervously paces to the end of the hallway and back. Over the next 2 days, this guard's holy station as the heretic's guard becomes lively, but only in his head. This whispering voice, who he's now certain is the presence of the Scaled God speaking directly to him, tells him how his service to the deity is to be rewarded, but that a grave error is being made, and that it is his sacred duty to rectify it. If he will undertake the necessary actions to make right this error, then he will be rewarded immediately with tremendous wealth and fabulous powers. All he needs to do is to open the door to the heretic's cell and speak the words of truthing, and the prisoner will be compelled to tell him everything about the keys. He hears the whisper come again. "The stars are right. Now is the time. Open the door. Speak the words." Excitedly, feverishly, the guard throws down his spear and helmet and unbars the door, heaving it open. Inside, the heretic wizard lay in a heap in the corner, looking sickly and frail, a loop of copper in his earlobe glinting in the pale light. "Heretic! Heed the words of the Scaled God," the guard declares. "Behold the words of truthing! Sand in the eyes of a man who falls deep into labyrinth dreams. Now succumb to sleep." The wizard's lips move along with the rhyme, and unbeknownst to the guard, he lets a small pile of fine stone dust fall from his fingers. The guard looks on for a moment before his eyes suddenly roll back and he slumps to the side, fast in slumber. The wizard stands and slowly stretches his limbs before rifling through the guard's pockets for the key to his manacles. A good wizard never uses up all his magic, just in case something like this happens. Now, to take the man's clothes and gear and find a way out of the dungeon. Message! This is a great cantrip for a ton of reasons. You point at a creature within range, who you don't even need to be able to see, so long as you know that they are there, and whisper a message. They, and only they, hear it, and can then respond with another whisper. It can pass through physical matter, a lot of it to a certain point, so knowing that the guard is outside and directing it right at where he is, via where he tapped on the wall, is gonna get the message directly into his brain. And if the target doesn't know what's going on, it can be a surreal experience at the least, and a deeply disturbing one at worst. You can use it to issue orders, to speak covertly, or to invade the mind of anyone you can target. The player's handbook doesn't say how long a message it's supposed to be, unlike the sending spell, so that is also exploitable. And since it's a cantrip, it takes no actual magical effort to cast, and you can do it even if you have no spells prepared, so long as you have the component, a short length of copper wire, which could very easily be fashioned into an earring or another adornment so as to not catch attention. This invasion of the mind with the message can simulate things like hallucinatory conversations with, say, a god that doesn't actually exist, and help convince a guard to open the barred door so that he can be affected by a sleep spell and leave a clear way of escape, as well as supplies and gear. See, think outside the box, think outside the status quo for normal everyday spells, and you can really get cool, super subversive uses for them. This video started with me rolling on a random cantrip table and getting message as the result of the roll, so it was naturally a little bit difficult for me to figure out how it could be used in an unorthodox fashion, since the spell is already stupid useful, and nobody really debates that fact. This isn't one of the spells that people are going to be like, oh, why would you take message? It's the weakest spell because it only does 1d4 damage, or whatever people talk about vicious mockery or something right now. But literally any spell can be useful or not in the right context, and if you have just a little bit of creativity, you can really pump some cool, interesting, subversive outcomes out of basically any spell. Think about taking Magic Initiate, right? Magic Initiate's a feat, you get it at 4th level because you're taking it as early as you can, and it gives you, from any spell list that you want, you choose a spell list and you gain 2 cantrips and a 1st level spell. So maybe you take the wizard spell list. Maybe you learn something like Mage Hand and Message and Sleep. Stupid good, right? Mage Hand is one of the best utility spells in the game, and Sleep for a very low level setup is quite good, and the higher level you cast it, the better you're gonna be, so maybe it's not good for Magic Initiate, maybe you should be taking something like Magic Missile, but you get Message as well. Now, if you're the fighter that took the Magic Initiate feat, you can issue orders to the rest of your squad in the middle of a loud fight, and no one else will be able to hear them, but your squad will be able to hear them loud and clear, or at least one person of them will. You could sit in the throne room where the king and queen are hanging out, and then whisper to the king. You can exploit this thing to just crazy, stupid levels. There's so much that you can do with this invasive version of this spell, right? Because it's the same spell, but they don't get to make a saving throw against it. When you do this thing, they hear the message in their head. You could start cults this way. Any random mook that just hears a whisper in their head and then more whispers in their head is either going to think that they're crazy or that they're being contacted by some sort of deity or other extraplanar being or something like that, and you can basically tell people hey, I'm a genie, I'm stuck in a bottle at the tavern, get the most expensive bottle that's in the tavern and bring it out to the middle of the town square, leave it on the edge of the fountain, and then walk away, and then I'll pop out of the bottle and I'll give you wishes. But then you just walk up and take that expensive bottle of wine and then walk off with it. Fuck this spell. It is so broken. Anyone who is a manipulative sort of character, this spell is almost indispensable for them, because you can make people think stuff. It's nuts.